Okay, here's my video for today, this morning, and I'm continuing on my part 3 on mathematical theology. That's what I'm calling it, for lack of a better name. And I talked in a previous video about how in a picture you can have sort of elements in the picture that could be self-correcting, and I likened it to a puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle or a crossword puzzle, or just looking at things that, like a Picasso image, you can think something's weird about that image that doesn't quite look like a person, that communicates additional information, and how a picture is like 1,000 words. And so, illustrating a little more on this, there's this idea of, it's called Miller's Law. Is like a human could see 7 plus or minus 2 things, like 7 plus or minus 2. So like 5 things, 6 things, 7 things, 8 things, 9 things. Anything more than that, and you're not going to remember it. So you're going to remember things that are grouped 7 plus 2, but you're not going to remember things that are more than that. And then there's this other one called chunking information. It says, no, it's really 4. So regardless of the number, it seems like, okay, when you think of the Bible, when it was written, paper, they didn't really have paper, they had parchments that were really expensive. So that was a limited commodity, and few people could even read, and a lot of the stories were verbal prior to that. So in words, it's hard to organize things graphically. Words are just laid out on a page, and they're not organized in little groups like this. I mean, you could try to break them down into that, but it's, and they try to do that with like verses, break it down to fewer words, but still, most verses have more than 5 to 9 words. And but on the other hand, God surely knows about Miller's Law and chunking and all that. Having made man, knows what humans are capable of. And so it seems like that it makes sense that God would use certain, instead of putting pictures, I had no way to put pictures really in the text. I mean, you have artists that draw it, but that's really, but even there, that it's hard to convey a picture. The artist is going to draw maybe the wrong picture. So instead, it seems like it's perfectly reasonable that God would create these symbols, objects like the menorah that symbolize something, and it maybe utilizes these principles. Like here, the menorah, it has like 7 branches, but you could break it down to 3. It has a left side, a right side, and a center. Left side, you can have broken down to sub pieces. Like the left side has 3 pieces, the right side has 3 pieces. Or you could say, if you include the olive trees, there's 5. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, is creating these lanes and threads. So you have, and the other thing here is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, when you look at the menorah, I talked about the order of creation versus the order of perfection. And the order of creation is God made the menorah a long time ago, and and that's when you learn about the Bible and read it, you're going to read about the menorah and all this. But what it means, what it symbolizes, comes next. That's the order of perfection. But when God created the menorah, did he think, I'm going to make the menorah, and it's like is it just a metaphor, like our analogy? You can carry an analogy too far, because the analogy wasn't, you think life is like a bowl of cherries. The bowl of cherries wasn't created specifically to represent life. It's an analogy, so it's going to break down. But did God make the menorah? Then as an afterthought, think I'll make it symbolize this and this. And I was like, no, that's not likely. He had these ideas, and he created the menorah, which is we read about as a copy of things in heaven, to communicate things. So it's not going to be like an analogy that's going to break down. It's going to be like an icon that was carefully designed to communicate things. And now, just what is a good question. And here I'm not. And one other point I need to make is I try to avoid stating my opinion. I don't, like I can say, in my opinion, 7 stands for completeness. It's like, well, so what? Why is my opinion anybody better than anybody else's opinion? So I'm sticking to facts. Facts, the menorah has 7 branches. 3 on either side, 1 in the center. Fact. The Bible talks about an olive tree being on either side. Fact. Fact, it has this geometry. And I'm just laying out these facts. Like, there's 3. There's not 4 on either side. There's 4 on the other, the later menorah, the Jewish Hanukkah menorah. So putting these back together, you could kind of see that I'm organizing things along those principles. It's like there's 12 fruits. But let me zoom in a little more on here. But the 12 could be broken into groups of 3 or 4 groups of 3, and that could be like, and it talks about seasons, so there's 4 seasons. So we're taking 12 and breaking it down to smaller groups. Then there's 2. Here's another group, the group of fruits of the Spirit versus fruits of light, of the light. We talked about that. So you can see the principle here of breaking things down into pieces. So and with that segue, let me cover some more things. So like we have the 2 olive trees up here, and we have like here we have talk about the 7 spirits of God will rest on him. So there's 7, and we see 6 listed here, but the 7th seems to be the Spirit of the Lord, the center one. So, and we think, okay, another fact is we read about 7 spirits. We got a Revelation. Let me shrink this down here. You see how this is a pretty neat tool. 7 spirits of God. It talks. So we start out way back in Isaiah we read with this, but we jump to the book of Revelation, and we still see out from the throne came the flashes of lightning and sounds of peals of thunder. And there were 7 lamps, and the fire burning before the Lord, which 7 spirits. Now, 7 lamps could refer to, 7 lamps. Now, down here, we see not lamps, but lampstands. So there could be 7 lampstands. Each one has 7 lamps. So, and that's the churches, 7 churches. So the 7 spirits of God are lamps. And you can see here that the 7 churches are lampstands. And so, once again, it's not my opinion. It's just you read the scripture and see what it says. And so here I laid out, I had an earlier version of this chart, I laid out the 7 churches, and you can see that there's an order. You go from Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Tyre, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And if you traveled from one to other, you'd follow this path. So once again, this is not, does that mean anything? I don't know if it means anything or not, but it's just a fact. It's just more facts. So if you lay out this journey, you travel along this line. It's the same as travel along this line. And there's 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and 1 in the middle. What does that mean? If it means anything, I don't know. But like, here's the 7 spirits of God. And each church, you would think, would have all 7 spirits. You wouldn't think a church would have 1 spirit. When it says be full of the Spirit, maybe full could be like a gas tank, half empty, half full. Or it could mean have all 7 spirits, not just 1 or 2 of them. And like spirit of knowledge. That's good, but you want to also have the spirit of understanding. You want to have the spirit of power. You want to have the spirit of understanding, and etc. So this is, and then you look here at more imagery. Here's the mercy seat. It has two cherubim, each have two wings. So if they're facing each other, this cherubim, the left wing is going to be on this side. This cherubim, the left wing is going to be on the other side because they're facing each other. So that's just the way it works. So we have two cherubim and each has two wings. So I kind of look at here and look, there's the 24 elders. Now how do you map, once again, just mapping them into these lanes, numerical lanes, just number lanes. And and trying to get symmetry if you can. And if you can't, think, well, that tells a story too if they don't have symmetry. So here we have 12 on the side, 12 on that side. That could be facing each other. You could think this one's facing this one, this one's opposite this one's. You could kind of fold it in the middle and see maybe they're in a V shape, but they're kind of facing each other. They're oftentimes portrayed as like a V shape. So this is one part of the V, and this is the other part of the V. It's kind of going this way. So and you should think when you fold them where they're facing each other, that's kind of like these two cherubim. They're facing each other, and so you could say, okay, there's a the left wing, the right wing of the left cherubim, and there's the right wing and the left wing of the right cherubim, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and they each have crowns. And so the crowns could be, and then we map here to the spirits. It's like all the spirits are equal, and they're drawn equal here at the same level. But, in the church, like the Anglican church, the head bishop is called the first among equals. He's not superior, but he kind of organizes things. And so maybe here, the first among equals here is the elder that specializes in knowledge. And say this church specializes in counsel. This specializes in wisdom. This specializes in understanding. Understanding. I didn't want to go there. Could have gone there. This one specializes, say, in power or strength. That's like moral courage, virtue, not physical strength. And this one is fear of the Lord. And then I have twos because I need to put that passage here, but Jesus sent out his disciples of 12 in twos. And so we have the two. So we have, and there's other things here I thought of. Jesus said, foxes have a home, but I don't have a home. But he stayed with Mary and Martha and Lazarus. So you can kind of think of this might be the head is kind of like Jesus, and then there's Mary and Martha and Lazarus. I could add that here. So once again, does it mean anything? No, it's just my rules is I try to don't add or subtract. So I'm not adding anything here. I'm just don't do one-to-one mapping. So you don't leave anything out, or that's kind of adding or subtracting. If you don't do one-to-one mapping, you either have added something extra or. Now here I don't have one-to-one mapping. I don't have one thing mapping to two things. So once again, the one-to-one mapping, here I'm creating another set. So when I say one-to-one mapping, it means I wouldn't just leave one of these out. Every one of these gets mapped. So mathematically speaking, it's not just one-to-one mapping. It's I forgot the name you'd call this, but there's nothing they left out, is what I was saying. But there's nothing counted twice. I'm not counting this twice. I'm saying these are paired to create a set of these two. So I'm probably not saying that. Any mathematician should watch this. I'm probably not quite saying that right, but hopefully I get the idea across. So So anyway, I added that chart here and go back to here. And one of the things that I wanted to add here is like, here's sort of like Jesus in the flesh as a lamb. And here's kind of his spiritual eyes. But we see that physically he has two eyes, two nostrils, and two ears. And that's kind of like hearing, smell, and seeing. And a tongue is taste. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Faith comes from hearing. Witnesses report what they see and hear. And then the nose, smell, that's like incense, the prayers of the saints. So Jesus could smell the sweetness of those prayers. So once again, I'm just mapping things. These are... So here I talk about, see, if you look at the seven churches, two of them, Jesus had complaints against five, and two of them, Smyrna and Philadelphia, he had no complaints. So if we break this set of seven churches into two groups here, there's the two churches with no criticism. There's the 5, 2, and the 5 that have criticism. And then we look at the parable of 10 virgins, and we think there's 10, two groups of 5, so there's 5 wise and 5 foolish. So have I added anything? No, that's just what the verses said. I just grouped them. See, the idea, if Jesus used numbers, he didn't just pick those numbers just out of the blue, you would think. He chose those numbers for a reason. And so organizing things by their numbers is maybe a clue to help sort of see with your spiritual eyes, go up there, see with these eyes, not just with these eyes, but with our spiritual insight, what maybe these things signify why Jesus picked those. Then we move on down to sort of like a darker version of all this. We have the dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. And if I go here and look at this here, the 10 horns, you kind of think of anti-commandments. It's like each horn is what guides each one of these heads. And so it's certainly not the 10 commandments that guide them. So there's kind of the anti-commandments. And then once again, it's like, well, how do we know that? Well, I talked about yesterday, the 10 commandments are broken into a group of 4 and 6. 4 being against God, sins against God. The other 6 sins against man. So these are 4 sins against God and 6 sins against man. So that sort of fits. And we see here there's 7 diadems here. But here we have 10 diadems. So I'm not sure what that means. But this kind of looks like the kingdoms of this world. This seems to be the false prophet with 2 horns. And those kind of look at kind of like anti-witnesses. If the two, once again, with our symbology here, like horn 1 and horn 2, kind of goes with witness. Up here, witness 1, witness 2, way up here. Tree 1, tree 2, witness 1, witness 2. The third witness being the sinner. 2 or 3. It's like sometimes if truth and goodness can't agree, can't kiss one another, then you need a third witness to resolve that. And then we go down here to this beast that comes from the abyss. Now, this beast comes from the sea. And the abyss is kind of like the darkest, deepest part of the ocean. We got those weird fish with the little headlights and funny, scary-looking teeth. So there seems to be... a lot of people think this beast and this beast are the same beast. And they could be, because we read later on, we're going down, that there's, I'll go to that second. So, but the thought is, the focus here is not, is how the woman who rides on the beast versus up here, the woman, Lady Wisdom up here. So we have Lady Wisdom up here. See, going up here takes a while. Lady Wisdom. And then here we have Folly, Lady Folly, foolish Folly, riding on the beast, but as if she thinks the beast cares for it. You could get a free ride, but there's no free rides, there's no free lunches. The beast hates the woman and casts her off, throws her under the bus, so to speak. So we can see that happening today a lot, people being thrown under the bus. And I think they are getting a free ride, but no, they're just going to get thrown under the bus. So now I'm moving over to, it gets more complicated. We move on down to the, this should be lined up here. The 7 trumpets, follow our number lines down, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls of wrath, and we got the 7 thunders. Let me go to 7 thunders first, because I did a lot of research on that. And we also have, okay, there's not much in the 7 thunders, and for a reason, because it says, out from the throne came flashes of lightning and sounds and peals of thunder, and there were 7 lamps of the fire burning before the Lord, in which are the 7 spirits of God. Oh, yeah. So there's the peals of thunder. So we have that verse here, which I talked about up there as well. It says, seal up the things which the 7 thunders have spoken, and do not write them. So we don't really know what those 7 thunders are saying. And such, it's a mystery. Well, we have 2 mysteries, famous mysteries. One is a behold a mystery, and it's talking about the church. The church in the Old Testament was a mystery. So, and then there's another mystery. I think there's 3 mysteries. I think the rapture is another mystery. We don't know much about it. There's a lot of arguments about, is there one? If so, how does it work? Is there just 1 or 2? Or it's kind of mysterious. And then we have, and so then the 7 thunders. See, these all could be related in one sense, the rapture and the 7 thunders, because it's a mystery. You don't know what it is. But we have here the mystery of lawlessness. So trying to connect the dots, we don't have much to go on here other than it's sealed, and things are sealed are a mystery. It's a mystery what they are saying. So once again, it's not my opinion. It's a mystery. We don't know what it is. So I go to here. The mystery of lawlessness is already at work, and it's the lawless one will be revealed, and he'll deceive people, even the elect. He talks about the elect. God, from you, this goes in that passage. It says, God chose you from the beginning to be saved. That's election. That's not my opinion. That's what election is, that God chose you from the beginning. That's just a definition. It's not opinion. So we read about the abomination of desolation and the time of tribulation, and it says, even the elect would be deceived if it were possible. So this is kind of connecting the dots. Seems to be talking about here the mystery of lawlessness, revealing it's kind of the end times kind of stuff, end times, and so this mystery, the reason it's sealed because perhaps this is me just speculating, but saying that if not all who profess and say, Lord, Lord, are going to enter the kingdom. That's once again, not my opinion, that's a verse. So not all professing Christians are going to enter the kingdom. Only the elect. But all professing Christians tend to read their Bible and whatnot. So it goes back up to here. It's maybe only those that could see with their spiritual eyes and not just with their regular eyes could understand and hear and what that is sealed. As they get it. And so they're not going to be deceived. But the non-elect, even if they're professing to be Christians, and there's lots of people. I mean, Jim Jones professed to be some sort of Christian, and and drink your Kool-Aid, and that's what God wants you to do, drink the Kool-Aid. So I'm dating myself with him. Let's go back a ways. So at any rate, so going back up here to the beast, in 7, we read about, there's in Proverbs, the 7 things God hates: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes or imaginations or plans. It's interpreted plans some places. Feet that are swift to run to mischief or to evil, a false witness, and he that soweth discord among his brethren. So going back here, let me go, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Go over here. And so lining these 7 up, I went and did some word searching here. So it's like, if these 7 spirits, knowledge, this is conceit. Let me go. Let me open this one up. This is probably a better. Go over here. I got to get over here. Click on this. Okay. So a proud look. So we read here now, concerning food sacrificed to idols, as we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge makes one conceited or puffs up, but love edifies. So let's say this is this trying to, what are these thunders that are sealed? It seems that maybe it's talking about those who profess to be Christians, but they're not part of the elect, and they have to. They just see with their physical eyes. They can't see with their spiritual eyes. And so they have a lot of knowledge, but it can be puffed up. I mean, everybody knows. I mean, we all face that. That's me. When I know a lot, I start getting puffed up. But love builds up. So that's kind of the antidote. So if you learn something new, try to take some love potion as well, or whatever. So let's move to the next one, lying tongues. The acquisition of treasures by a lying tongue is fleeting vapor. So why do people lie? For their gain, usually. Either they're trying to hide something they're bad they've done, or they want to sell you a car, and they don't want to tell you the car is a lemon. So just moving on. I could spend a lot of time on any of these. Let's go to the next one. Hands that shed innocent blood, but your eyes and your heart are intent only upon dishonest gain and shedding innocent blood and practicing oppression and extortion. So yeah, there's just Christians who cheat. That's just a fact. Maybe you've been cheated by someone who's claimed to be a Christian. I have. I had a lot of money out. I lost a lot of money on that, but no need to go into details. But and we've all cheated sometimes. We're all, even the best of us probably. So let's go down to the heart devises evil or wicked plans. Evil plans are an abomination to the Lord, but pleasant works are pure. So abomination. So we're going back up here to this whole idea that, let me go out of here. See, we were talking up here was the abomination of desolation. Let's see, where was that? There we go. The abomination of desolation. No, I didn't have to go out here. So these are abominable things. God hates them. They're abominable. That's kind of the same thing. If God hates it, then it must be abominable. I don't think how to hate something that's not abominable. So go back, oops, go back over here and click on this. So we got down to here. Feet that are swift to shed innocent blood. Here we go. The soul of the wicked desires evil. His neighbor is shown no compassion in his eyes. So no compassion. We see a lot of that nowadays too. No, I'm not going to go into all that here, but it's like me. I'm going to look after me. What do I care about? Me first. Not do unto others as you have them do unto you, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's kind of opposite of that. So, you can think of a Christian who kind of fits this description, and think, well, I'm saved. Once saved, always saved. I've been baptized. I believe that Jesus, and goes on to all these things, and think, therefore I must be saved. As if that's a work. All you had to do is say the right magic incantation, the right words, and you're saved, versus some real transformation. So, and then finally, he that soweth discord. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. So, and we see a lot of hate and strife nowadays. So let me end this here. But the idea is that there's lots of things here, and I talked about that. What was that? Let me go back up to here. All right, Miller's Law. I want to keep it down to, reduce it down to little sets of 7, or 5, or 2, and it's sort of like the 4. It's kind of like you want to zoom in. 7 is you kind of get the big picture. The 2, you get even a bigger picture, and 4, you kind of zoom in. We kind of zoom in here. Here we had this big picture here, and then we zoom in the four living creatures. But even there, you have groups of 7, like six wings plus the creature that bears the wings. And so, anyway, let me end the video here. It's probably run long enough. So, once again, not a teacher. I'm not even showing my opinions. I'm not saying I think these are true. I'm just saying I'm sticking to the facts. That's my story. I'm sticking to the facts. And the numbers tend to the numbers presumably are chosen not haphazardly, but for a reason, and maybe organizing along those numbers, might be a good way to try to discern what those purposes might be. So on that, let me end.